I'm Ed, by the way, and the way memory walks work is that we're going to wander around this space, kind of picking a route around the Serpentine Gallery, and then because human spatial memory is excellent, we're going to use that as a kind of structure on which we're going to place images, and I think we're going to learn the US presidents in order, kind of topical. And we can have some fun speculating about the next incumbent. So we've got the first president is George Washington. Very good. And can you just all, even if it's a really easy question, just say it out loud and in sort of synchrony, because it's sort of it's like whenever you do anything where everyone does exactly the same thing, even if it's a dance move like this, it actually just feels really cool. Can we all just quickly try that dance move? So heel out, and then to the side. And then the rest of it, and then transferring to the left foot out. Good. And do you notice that feels really enjoyable? Good. And so who's the first president? It's George Washington. And now we've got John Adams. So John is obviously the slang word for a toilet. And Adams you associate with?
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve. Very good. So let's imagine an enormous toilet with Adam and Eve sort of making out on top of it. And the more vivid and absurd our imagery, the more memorable the result. So that's going to be John Adams. So working backwards, the second president was John Adams, and the first president was
George
Washington. Very nice. I like the volume there. Now, next up, we've got Thomas Jefferson. And so the word we've got. Who? Put your hand up, Thomas. Where are you?
Yep. There's a Thomas.
Oh, Thomas, cool. So Thomas, if you come over here, and Thomas is like going to be leading Thomas the Tank Engine. We're going to imagine him on the train. And Jefferson sounds like what?
Airplane.
Jefferson Airplane the band. Awesome. I am completely ignorant of excellent bands, but I'm sure they're excellent. But to my mind, Jefferson sort of sounds like Jaffa Cakes.
Jet engine.
Jet engine. Okay, cool. Let's imagine Thomas the Tank Engine with a jet engine. Thomas Jefferson. Okay, so we're going to go and come over here, and we're going to pick up the pace now because we've got 44 presidents to get through. So it's very important to pay attention to your environment in order that this creates a nice crisp set of memories. So we've got the blockage there with the shootout, and here we've got the donations box on which we're going to have John Quincy Adams. Now what I propose is we use the same image as we had with John Adams, namely a toilet with Adam and Eve making out on it, but then we add Quincy. So how are we going to add Quincy?
Plums.
Plums, yeah, I think plums. So let's imagine like the whole area here. Memory, by the way, is multi-sensory, so we really need to imagine like delicious, basically quince jam all around the side here. And as we kind of walk through it, we can imagine it sort of sticking onto our feet. That'll be a memorable thing. So here we've got John Quincy Adams. So beginning from the beginning, we have the first president, who is
George Washington.
and then we have John Adams, and then Thomas Jefferson, and then James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams. Okay, awesome. So that's the first 6 done. The president after him was the first president whose first language was not English, and his first language was Dutch, and his name is Martin van Buren. Martin sounds like St. Martin, yeah. Yeah, possibly. I mean, a more memorable image perhaps would be a Martian. So let's imagine, in fact, this is a pre-prepared mnemonic. Let's imagine a Martian in a van that's burning for Martin van Buren, okay? So say that after me, like a Martian in a van that's burning for Martin van Buren. Okay, we're going to carry on with the walk. So William Henry Harrison. Williams are kind of difficult. Let's imagine Prince William and Prince Harry. So William Henry, and then if either of those two princes currently has a son, I imagine it's Harry. Unknown to the rest of the royal family. So let's imagine William Henry Harry with Harry's son sitting here kind of mewling and puking on the ground, because anything which is unpleasant is also memorable. So you've got William Henry Harrison. Okay, cool. That's William Henry Harrison. And over here we're going to have John Tyler. John, would you step forward? No, we don't have a John, do we? I wish one of you, Lolo, I wish you were called John. It's a shame. But this is quite nice because this is like a tiled array. And so let's imagine, say, a famous John. Give me a famous John.
John the Baptist.
John the Baptist. I don't have a vivid image for John the Baptist.
John Lennon.
John Lennon. John Lennon's pretty good. So let's imagine John Lennon. He's doing some tiling. So we got John the Tiler. So doing some tiling. John the Tiler. Go back one step and you've got William Henry Harrison, preceded by Martin van Buren, preceded by, and then this is a bit weird in the space, but we've got to go over, we've got to imagine the, okay, well anyway, let's go for it. Andrew Jackson, and then we've got John Quincy Adams, and before that we've got James Monroe, good, and then James Madison, and then Thomas Jefferson with a jet-powered Thomas the Tank Engine. Before him we have John Adams, and then George Washington. And you're already noticing one of the nice things about these kinds of spatial memory techniques, which is you can go backwards as well as forwards. And you've also got what's known in the computer industry as random access memory. So if I were to say to you, like, who comes before Andrew Jackson, you'd say John Quincy Adams. No, you wouldn't look so blank. Okay, we're entering into quite a cool phase here where we're shortly going to have the only president who was elected on 2 non-consecutive occasions, which is one of those pieces of kind of American trivia that only Americans can get really excited about, but was involved in, well, I'll come to the famous Simpsons joke about that in a bit. First though, we got Ulysses S Grant, who didn't have a middle name, but thought because presidents should have a middle initial, that he should have a middle initial. So he just called himself Ulysses S Grant, but the S didn't stand for anything. Anyway, Ulysses was who? Yeah, some sort of Greek hero. Grant sounds like what animal noise? Grunt. So let's imagine us all in, like, for the sake of it, togas. I know, whatever, Latin, but let's imagine us all in togas grunting. In fact, let's all just grunt for a bit. If you were given the choice, which would you rather, walk naked through a field of nettles or just walk through a haze of bees? You'd probably respond, I'd rather ford a bee haze. Okay, so let's imagine there's a haze of bees, and as we all step through it, let's just do it in sync. So one step at a time. We're fording a bee haze, and why are we doing it? Because we would rather ford a bee haze. We'd rather ford a bee haze. Good. And then we had Dwight Eisenhower, who sounds, if you like hear Dwight Eisenhower over a phone under kind of crackly conditions, it sounds like a white ice tower, which is a wonderfully fun thing to imagine. And incidentally, people who have had the misfortune to suffer burns injuries, often they found that by putting them into a virtual environment, which wasn't like a fridge or anything, but where everything is made of ice, their pain diminishes dramatically because of the kind of the placebogenic effect of imagining white ice. And so if any of you are overheating in the head, imagine an enormous pyramidal ice tower here, and that will calm you down. And that's going to be next to Harry S. Truman, who we're just imagining as a mushroom cloud, next to Roosevelt, who we're imagining as a large wheelchair, pushed by Lolo, the Frenchman. Good. So we got Lyndon B. Johnson, and then let's do this one just from the fence, and we can just point our way here. So our next person is Richard Nixon, who is famous for what? Yeah, he's basically famous for Watergate. If I say the word, would all of you, if I just said Watergate, kind of go Richard Nixon? It's cool. So let's imagine this as a gate into some water. Okay, brilliant. So we've got Watergate, Richard Nixon, and then we've got Gerald Ford. So Gerald reminds you of what? Granddad. Yeah, so let's imagine a granddad driving a Ford, and the Ford motor car is going to be driving over there, chasing Jimmy Carter. Okay, and so for Jimmy Carter, let's imagine just a guy in a cart shooting a gun in the air. It's Jimmy Carter. So Gerald Ford, the old man Ford, chasing Jimmy Carter, and then we can't fail but make use of these statues. So after Jimmy Carter, I think it's Ronald Reagan. So that's more or less the one on the right is probably Ronald Reagan. And if you ever forget one of these presidents, go back to the image and juice it up a bit. Maybe pick a different image, make it more vivid, make it larger, add some violence. Blood normally helps. Just merely adding blood to an image normally makes it more memorable. Okay, so that's excellent. So who here feels that they could, under the pressure of being singled out, no, who here feels they couldn't, under the pressure of being singled out, go through the whole list of presidents? And you guys don't count because you came in the middle. But who feels that they're still a bit vague? So be honest about it. Feel a little bit vague, Pat? A little bit vague? A little bit vague? Okay, cool. So Pat and Thomas have just volunteered to do it all together. So come forward, because what will surprise you is if you actually press yourselves, you'll probably find that it's all there. And we're going to add to you Will, who I think has got great willpower and so won't be intimidated by this. And so you're going to have a go, so just come stand here. You're going to have a go at running through them. And you know, everyone should be willing to try this. And obviously there's no shame whatsoever in forgetting, because it's just an opportunity to improve the image. So take it away, guys. You can confer amongst yourselves, but who was the first president?
George Washington.
And then it was?
John Adams.
Very good. And then?
Thomas Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson. Very good. And then after that it was? There was a... Okay, cool. So this is an opportunity to improve the memory. So we'll use Thomas because he was there with Thomas Jefferson. The train is going along, and I go, it's got to stop because there's a gunfight on the line between Madison, James Monroe. Okay, good. So whenever you have some sort of lack of a link, just go back to that and just make it narratively inevitable that the next memory is going to come up, and then it becomes narratively inevitable. Gerald Ford, followed by Jimmy Carter, followed by Ronald Reagan, followed by George Bush, followed by Bill Clinton, followed by George Bush, W. Bush, good, followed by Barack Obama. Hey! Hey!